I said breathe! Ancient aliens, UFO phenomenon, abductions, missing time, strange balls of light in the sky. The UFO phenomenon was only coined as such back in the 1950s. However, the stories go back much longer than that. On December 14th, 2019, I was returning home from going on a bit of a family road trip up to Blackfoot, Idaho to visit my cousins. To be honest, I'm not very fond of their mother, but it was the holidays and I don't get to see him as much as I used to. As much as I like to, for that matter. On my way home, we stopped through Burley and left along Highway 30 to head towards my hometown of Murtaugh, Idaho, to drop off my grandmother before I returned home. We all just had the same days off, so we finally decided to make that trip. Along Highway 30, I noticed a strange light moving above the mountains. To be honest, I thought it was perhaps a regular aircraft, just reflecting light off at the sunset. The time of this sighting was 5:03 p.m. It had seemed this light was just hovering in place. Then it started to move. I was facing south-southwest. I watched the craft as it started to move in a sort of curve from south-southwest moving north. I tried to listen, tried to watch for any details to find out what it was. Because for some reason my curiosity was piqued. About 2 minutes pass. the craft suddenly stops midair. Now, mind you, this time of year could have easily been just a commercial flight passing through. It could have been a search and rescue chopper. Could have been anything. I wasn't close enough to make out any specific details, except that it was metallic, and I realized that it wasn't necessarily reflecting the light, but it was giving off some of it as well. From what I could tell, it was a bit more of an oval shape. Alexa, next song. I really gotta get a playlist together. Suddenly, the craft made a 150-degree flip, then vanished before my eyes. I looked at all the flight trackers I knew of for the area. Even if there was emergency response vehicles out looking for missing hikers, I was going to find it. However, based on my location and where the craft came from, I could not find any evidence of any registered craft at all within that airspace. This report was forwarded to MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and I was already contacted by the state director for here in Idaho, to which he concluded it was an unknown UAV. Unknown, unmanned aerial vehicle, which is a term often used synonymous with drones outside of MUFON, but he explained that that was MUFON's term for a UFO. Even he thought it might have been something legit. So that's what inspired tonight's episode. We are officially through the first month of 2020. I hope this new decade is starting to bring you fun new opportunities in whatever exploits you're looking for, because it's already done so for me. Tonight's episode is the UFO debate. What in the hell is going on? My name is Dakota Frandsen, and I am the one and only specialist of the strange. Stay tuned after this commercial, because things are about to get weird.
Hey everyone, Dakota Frandsen here, specialist of the strange. I just wanted to come with you real quick about potentially doing your own podcast. Have you ever wanted to start your own podcast? Maybe you got a lot of questions like, how do I record? How do I get my show into all these apps that are out there? How can I make money? There are probably several thousand other questions about getting this show off the ground that you have been formulating and communicating in your mind. And I'm here to tell you that there is a very simple answer to this. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your show. And best of all, it is 100% free. Get all the perks from the other guys without having to pay for subscription fees. And best of all, it is easy. And in fact, Anchor can match you up with sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast right now, which means you can get paid doing what you love. Isn't that the fucking dream, my friends? In fact, that's actually what I'm trying to do right now by reading this ad for you. It is amazing. It helps ease the process for guests, putting on music, whatever you want to do. So if you want to start your podcast, make some money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and several other fabulous people already using Anchor. That's Anchor FM/start. And I cannot wait to hear you on the air.
So in recent days, within the last couple of years, the UFO phenomenon has been taking some interesting turns. We have Tommy DeLonge from Blink-182 getting involved in UFO research and actually influencing the military to come out and say, yes, they've been investigating this type of thing, but they have no clue what the hell's going on. We have the White House admitting that the Pentagon has been researching UFOs. We have even in the increase in UFO phenomenon, allegedly. The interest in the strange things that we see in the sky is not anything new. You can actually find reports that date back to 400 AD, back into the Roman Empire. And their stories passed down in various cultures all over the world. Too old to accurately date. Of beings coming from the sky, hence the basis for the ancient alien theory. But when you really look at it, what the hell is going on? And now that the military's fessing up that they've been researching these things, what have they found? And is there something coming? And that's why we're seeing all this taking place. If it hasn't happened already, doubtful, but in the event that I date this show a little late, some conspiracy circles claim that within the next decade, from 2020 on, there's supposed to be a grand reveal in regards to the extraterrestrial phenomenon. Basically, something's going to happen to where the United States government has no choice but to come clean, maybe with the aid of representatives from other planets. And come out and say, yeah, this stuff's real. We are not alone in this universe. And all research has indicated that these beings have been involved within our history, possibly since before mankind even appeared on this planet. In fact, going back to the conspiracy idea, there's one idea that's getting tossed around that I thought it was a little ridiculous, but we'll see what happens. Essentially, these groups claiming that for the grand reveal to happen, there is going to be a faked alien invasion in which somehow Tom Cruise was going to play a part. Honestly, sounds like somebody's been watching too much of the War of the Worlds reboot. Or Edge of Tomorrow, I think. That's his newer films. But yeah, allegedly Tom Cruise is going to play a part in a staged alien invasion. So that's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. In fact, it's going to be interesting to see how any of this unfolds. Because when you really look at it, if you look at the vastness of the universe, the variety of life here on Earth, the variety of circumstances that are possible out there, the question as to whether or not extraterrestrials actually exist is practically non-existent. Mainstream scientific circles, conspiracy theorists, witnesses can all agree that the question was whether or not was never, are they out there? The question is, where the hell are they? And there's actually information that dictates that some of our methods in utilizing gigantic telescopes and radar monitoring systems to focus our attention on select groups of planets and star clusters in the hopes of finding something may in fact be redundant. The military has been researching these things for years, basically for two main purposes. What the hell is going on, and how can we use those toys? As I mentioned before the break, the term UFO was actually coined by the United States Air Force back in the 50s, when a lot of this research was on the forefront. We have Project Blue Book, Stargate, which dealt with psychic phenomenon that allegedly had results that indicated extraterrestrial life. We have all these studies into uncovering what's going on. In fact, there are files from the CIA and FBI that are publicly accessible right now, which actually deal with documenting UFO phenomenon. There's actually files within the FBI archive, right online. Anybody with a computer and a halfway decent internet connection can access it. That states that contact has been made with extraterrestrial life. Whoever is inside those UFOs, make contact. But another thing we also need to remember, and some of you who have been following my show for a while now, following my work for a while now, actually know that I try to tell people that legitimate paranormal claims, whether it's ghosts, demons, UFOs, even situations like the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot, which might actually have some biological basis, only less than 1% of all claims are in fact true. Well, I shouldn't say it like that. Less than 1% of claims are able to be left as unexplainable. Everything else has some sort of natural cause. But this is less than 1%. Some circles, that would be enough to say, you know what? It's a freak anomaly. There's nothing to it. Leave it alone. Others will try to isolate it. Find out what's happening within this certain time frame. What's happening with that less than 1%. Why can't we explain what's going on? And honestly, if we're going to want to make the advancements in society that we've been dreaming of for as long as mankind has had science fiction novels, even longer than that, that's the stuff we're going to need to look at. In fact, I have some materials here that I want to discuss with you real quick. Materials that have been released to the public. Anybody can find this information if you know where to look. And I'll try to remember to put links down in the description. Or at least one source link that'll take you to everything else. So you're going to want to see this, my friends. Because when I read some of this information, especially with the new revelations that have come to the forefront in mainstream media nowadays, it certainly makes you wonder what the hell's going on. As I said before the break, the United States military has conducted several investigations into the paranormal phenomenon, into the UFO phenomenon. Let's focus on the topic here, and Dakota. Oh man, I think I'm getting sick again. Ugh. Most popularly known is Project Blue Book, which was actually the direct descendant of Project Grunge and Project Sign. All of these were the United States efforts to study the UFO phenomenon, among several other agencies which were formed in response. The main concern was are these potentially hostile parties? Who's in those ships? Several other governments around the world, in fact, a news report I saw on one of the pages I follow stated that several reports popped up within Canada not too long ago. Which, you can say, Dakota, it's not that all that surprising because, Canada covers a big area. And you're right, There's a lot of area to be covered, and there's a lot of isolated spots in Canada as well where there can be a lot going on that we don't know about. Just because it's hard to get into that type region. But as I said before, several of the studies done back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, even leading into the 70s, have actually been released through Freedom of Information Act requests. The FBI Vault, all you have to do is go to vault.fbi.gov/unexplained-phenomenon. The FBI has an entire section dedicated to the UFO phenomenon itself. Even talks about some of the alleged activity around President Eisenhower, called Majestic 12, which dated in 1988, to which
The result of that investigation was that the reports behind it, in order to exploit the recovery of an extraterrestrial aircraft, was considered to be fake. The CIA actually has guidelines for old school cameras. How you can set up your certain cameras in order to catch good photos of possible UFOs. In fact, they actually have information sheets that detail the circumstances behind said photographs. They have guidelines on how to investigate these claims. The American CIA releases back in 2017. Now, some of you may actually be wondering, okay, why are they doing this? I've looked, before recording this episode, I actually recorded briefly. I didn't read over much of this briefly because in order to get myself back into this mindset. But many of the reports that I've been able to uncover actually state that none of the documented incidents by the United States government indicated negative intentions. These things were not a threat, so therefore, their hands were tied. There was nothing much else they could do. If they're not going to be a threat, they're not going to worry about it. They're going to keep documenting it just in case they decide to turn on us. But the fact still remains. There are actually several members of the United States military nowadays who have come forward about UFO reports and come forward about how their superiors that they reported it to tried to brush it off and say, just ignore it. So there may actually be more to it. Now, excuse me. Now, in the episode description, you will actually see a list of links to which I am including where most of this information actually comes from, and you can go through and read it yourself. If you go through some of the UFO reports on the FBI side, you may have a little bit of trouble reading due to the fact that a lot of the information is blacked out. And it actually took a little bit of digital reconstruction on my end in order to read through a lot of it. But I actually have something I want to share right now. This is from one of the documents. It's about 69 pages long. It's about 22 pages in. Dated San Diego, California, July 8th, 1947. Towards the top, there are terms as the round robin, the flying roll, possible investigation names. But what's interesting is the contents of this letter. It's a memorandum of importance. And I'm going to read it to you right now. This document states, this memorandum is respectively addressed to certain scientists of distinction, two important aeronautical and military authorities, to a number of public officials, and to a few publications. The writer has little expectation, and this part is underlined actually. The writer has little expectation that anything of import will be accomplished by this gesture. The mere fact that the data herein were obtained by so-called supernatural means is probably sufficient to ensure its disregard by nearly all persons addressed. Nevertheless, part of this document is a little blurred, but makes it a public duty to make this information available, is basically what it says. The present writer has several university degrees and was formerly a university department head. Right there, this is saying, yes, this shit's weird, and you're probably going to throw it out. But this is what we know about what's going on. The next paragraph continues as, a very situation may develop at any time with regard to the flying saucers. If one of those should be attacked, the attacking plane will almost certainly be destroyed. In the public mind, this might create near panic and informal suspicion. The principal data concerning these craft is now at hand and must be offered, no matter how fantastic and unintelligible it may seem to minds not previously instructed in thinking of this type. Again, reiterating, if you weren't part of the investigations, this might sound like completely bullshit. This letter goes on to list the findings of extraterrestrial phenomena, of what's going on with these UFOs, what the government was able to find back in the 40s. Let me reiterate that. This is back in the 40s. Number one, part of the discs carry crews, others under remote control. Number two, their mission is peaceful. The visitors contemplate settling on this plane. Number three, these visitors are human-like, but much larger in size. Number four, they are not excarnate Earth people, but come from their own world. And for those of you who don't actually know, the term excarnate comes from archaeology and anthropology and refers to the practice of removing the flesh and organs of the dead before burial. Number five. This is where it gets interesting. They do not come from any quote-unquote planet, as we use this word, but from an etheric planet which interpenetrates with our own and is not perceptible to us. The bodies of the visitors, this is point number 6, and the craft also automatically sorry, I had to go in and reconstruct a few words, because again, parts of this document are smeared. But point number 6 is the bodies of the visitors and the craft also automatically naturalize on entering the vibratory rate of our dense matter. Point number 7. The discs possess a type of radiant energy or ray which will easily disintegrate any attacking ship. They re-enter the etheric at will and so simply disappear from our vision without trace. The region from which they come is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the locus or talus. Students of esoteric matters will understand these terms. Let me stop right there real quick. It's interesting that they mention these things, because locus or talus essentially are terms for planes of existence, according to Hindu cosmology. Ugh. is point number 9. They probably cannot be reached by radio, but probably can be by radar if a signal system can be devised for that. Point number 10. Wait, is there number 10? Sorry. Scratch that. The rest of the letter continues as follows. We give information and warning and can do no more. Let the newcomers be treated with every kindness. Unless the discs are withdrawn, and there's a whole bunch of crap right here that's overlapping it. So we're going to skip that sentence briefly. A heavy responsibility rests upon the foe in authority who are able to understand this matter. There's an amendment. It's hard to read currently, but it talks about the craft a bit more. Going into detail about what the crafts are actually made of, their functions, and looks a little bit more. But unfortunately, these are documents that are scanned in and had been deteriorated over time. So, this brings up a lot of interesting points. I've often proposed that the manifestation of spirits, whether they are just ghosts of those who passed, elementals, angels, demons, come from interactions with worlds beyond our vision. The FBI back in the 40s already came to this conclusion in regards to the UFO phenomenon, and I've said this before. A lot of the mechanics in which allows UFOs to function and allows for ghosts and spirits to interact with our world, it's all under the same mechanics. And they've already... See, this is what I keep saying, that somebody's already clearly beat me to the punch. With our current... Even with our technology nowadays, we may not be able to devise something in which can detect or make contact with beings on these other worlds. Going further into the Hindu cosmology, it is stated that there are 7 upper and lower planes of existence beyond our own. And this is a concept that can be replicated in a lot of older cultures. So it grants the notion that the ancient alien theory may be onto something, but when you're actually looking at how this all is taking place, it's absolutely mind-blowing. But despite what the report actually says, I think there might actually be more to it. We might actually be able to communicate by means of radio if we know what the hell we're doing. Because there's several
shaman medium types who have claimed that they've been able to make psychic contact with UFOs. There are studies in which users of DMT who reported making contact with angelic or extraterrestrial-like beings. There's studies currently being done in that regard. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to think a bit more. Like I said, it may not be... It'll be difficult, yes, but it may not be impossible to make contact. How we do that, that's going to be interesting to find out. At the beginning of the episode, I actually talked a bit about a UFO experience I had just last month that I actually filed a report with MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network. And they've concluded on this that it may actually be something legit. Which is good, because I don't like to waste time with... I don't believe that something is legit. I don't want to waste other people's time. And we'll easily move on to the next case. Because there's a lot more work that needs to be done. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Now that there's a bit more open discussion that the military has outsourced some of its research to private organizations, we might start seeing more developments in this area. Because it was ruled that the UFO phenomenon was not a threat unless provoked, they simply moved on to situations that required their attention more. And because several private organizations are outsourced for a lot of military operations in order to take the load off the military itself, several contractors, things like of that nature, whether or not that information comes out is up to the contractors themselves to release it, basically. Because the Freedom of Information Act only goes as far as government projects. If they outsourced it to private corporations, it becomes scrutiny to the public, to that corporation's own policies. So there's still maybe a lot that the government has realized that may be out there. There most definitely is there a lot more to cover in this topic. But the fact that they're coming out and actually saying, you know what, we've been looking into this and we're stumped. We have a few ideas, but we need some help. Authorities in these situations will not be afraid to outsource certain tasks to private corporations, to private companies, so that way they can reduce the workload. Because despite what all these conspiracy theorists said, many of them are still human. Many of them still get overwhelmed with emotion. Many of them might just suck at multitasking. And the number of civilians that are completely blind, ignorant to what's truly going on out there outnumbers the people that are in the know. And yes, they can they can try to explain everything, but there are still people who are willing to go to stupid lengths to remain ignorant. Look at the flat earthers, look at the anti-vaxxers. And if you're offended that I'm using those terms, it's calling it what it is. So the point in trying to teach these subjects to the masses is almost idiotic. There's no point behind it. And some of you have actually tried to claim that, to me, that society is ready. Hell no, we're not. Just look at the time we're recording this, the impeachment of Donald Trump just went through and is currently waiting to go into the Senate. Just look at the situation behind that. Look at how Democrats are actually starting to backpedal a bit before the Senate vote. As if they didn't realize impeachment simply meant nothing. And Donald Trump may have nothing to worry about, but that's comment that's going to be way overdue by the time this show hits the airs. Because I'm currently recording this on the anniversary of the end of the world from 2012. But anyway, I hope this discussion piqued your interest a bit. Be sure to like, subscribe for more videos. Next week's topic, we're going to go into Bigfoot. Now, that's not because some people are claiming that he's an extraterrestrial, because honestly, those reports kind of sound like somebody thinks they're seeing Chewbacca in the sky. But nevertheless, Bigfoot's the topic for next week. Be sure to tune in. My name is Dakota Frandsen, and I am the specialist of the strange. If you want to see the information that helped fuel this episode, there will be a link in the description. I hope you'd enjoy. I hope you have a good day, have a good night, whatever the hell time it is for you by the time this hits the airwaves. And I hope 2020 is treating you well. I shall see you next time, my friends.